Okay, so we're gonna finish up the notes on chapter 4 today. So yesterday we talked about the two different types of transformations. Remember, a rigid transformation is where this shape does not change size. A non-rigid would be making it either bigger or smaller. And we're not going to be doing a non-rigid in this lesson. We will be talking about similar triangles where we have one small and one large triangle, and you're going to see the similarities between them. Then here are the rules that you need to memorize. Remember, a translation is a slide, so it's either been shifted left or right or up or down. And then the reflection is like a flip, and you're either going to reflect it across the x-axis, the y-axis, either the line of y equals x, the line y equals negative x, or just a line that I tell you specifically, like the picture here. This picture here was reflected over the line y equals 1. So the blue is the original, and the red was the reflected. And then a rotation is like a turn. And again, the thing that you'll look for is this arrow to indicate how it was rotated, whether it was rotated clockwise or counterclockwise. And we did all of example 1, 2, and 3 here. And now today we'll finish it up. We're going to go ahead and take these same 3 order pairs. We're going to perform a translation, a reflection, and a rotation on these 3 order pairs, P, Q, and R. And then on the next slide, we're going to graph them. And you're going to see how the figure changed. So let's go ahead and do number 1. This one is a translation. We're going to slide it. So remember, whenever it's being added to the x, this is going to be the shift left and right. So this is going to be 4 units to the right. And then the +2 or the -2 here, this means that I'm going to be shifting the original figure 2 units down. So this is a translation. And you can see in the word the SL, so it's going to look like I am sliding my figure. So I'm going to go ahead and write down my original order pairs. So P, and let me do it in blue. I'll do it like I did on the previous slide. So P is the order pair -2, +3. Q is the order pair 1, 2. And R is 3, -1. So what we're going to do to each one of the x's to get our new order pair, we're going to be adding 4 to all of these x values. And then to get my new y value, I'm going to subtract 2 from all the y's. And remember, the new figure has that little apostrophe, or it's called a prime mark. So my new P order pair is -2 + 4, which is +2, and then 3 - 2, and that'll be 1. My new Q order pair is going to be the order pair 5, 0, and then my new R is going to be the order pair 7, -3. Now what I'm going to do on the next slide, after I finish filling in all the order pairs, I'm going to take these 6 order pairs and I'm going to graph them. Okay, so you'll be given the rule each time, and then you're going to do whatever the rule says to each one of the order pairs. Now let's go ahead and look at the reflection and get all of these order pairs, and then I'll do the rotation, and then we'll go to the next slide and graph. All right, so for the reflection across the x-axis, remember, the x value, when we reflect it across the x-axis, stays the same. So the rule that we saw is the original starts out as AB, and then when we reflect it, the new order pair, the x value, and in this case we're using the letter A, stays the same, but the y value goes to opposite. And here my y value is represented as the variable B. So let me go ahead and write down all of the originals. So again, same originals. P is the -2, 3. Q is the order pair 1, 2. R is the order pair 3, negative 1. So now for my P prime or my new P value, I'm leaving the X of the order pair the same, and then I'm changing the Y of that order pair and making it opposite sign. Same thing here for the Q. I'm going to keep the X the same, make the Y the opposite. And then lastly for the R, keep the X the same, make the Y opposite. And then on the next slide, I'm going to graph these 6 order pairs. Yes. So same 3 originals, P, Q, and R. And then for a rotation of 180 degrees, the X and the Y stay in the same spot, but you make them all opposite signs. So the P prime or the new P became positive 2, negative 3. The new Q became negative 1, negative 2. And the new R was negative 3, positive 1. So now on the next slide, I am going to graph all of these order pairs, and you're going to see how the figure has been transformed. All right, so this is going to be the graph for number 1. So let me go ahead and you guys could just copy, cut, paste and put the order pairs right next to it. I'm going to rewrite it. So my originals, because I need to graph all 6. So here are my originals, negative 2, positive 3. Q was 1, 2. And R was 3, negative 1. And then the new order pairs, the P prime, 2, 1. Q prime, 5, 0, and R prime, 7, negative 3. So this one, remember, they told us specifically what to do. So remember, it was X plus 4, and then Y minus 2. So whenever you're given a rule like that, this is the translation. Or think of it as a slide, the SL in the word. So let's graph them. So I'm going to graph the originals in blue. So I'm going to graph the order pair negative 2, positive 3. So that's P. Q is the order pair 1, 2. R is 3, negative 1. Go ahead and label them. I'm now going to connect the points. This is a nice little skinny triangle here. It's kind of tiny. So that's the original. And now the new one, positive 2, positive 1. That's my new P. And then my new Q is 5, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And my new R is 7, negative 3. And then connect them. And you can see that this blue figure, when it moved to the new red one, was shifted to the right 4 units, and then it went down 2 units. So this is like a slide. The official term is translation. Number 2 was the reflection across the x-axis. So my original order pairs are the same. They're the negative 2, positive 3, the 1, 2, and then the 3, negative 1. And then the new P, remember the X stays the same, the Y goes to opposite. 1, negative 2, and then 3, comma 1. So now I'm going to graph the originals. Now you guys could just copy the original if you didn't do the red in there, and then paste it each time because the blue is the same on all 3 graphs here. So negative 2, positive 3, that's your P. Then positive 1, 2 is your Q. And then 3, negative 1 is the R. Now I'm going to graph the originals. I mean the shifted ones. So my new ones are -2, -3. That's your P prime. And then your new Q prime is +1, -2. And then the new R is +3, +1. And then you can connect. You can see that it was shifted or reflected across the x-axis. Now, again, one thing you can do is if they're ever asking you to determine, what happened to it, notice you can count the gaps. So you see how R, the original R was 1 space away from the x-axis, and then there's the new R, 1 space away on the other side. Same thing for the Q. The Q is 1, 2 space away, and then the original Q was 2 spaces away. And then over here, the P, it's 1, 2, 3 spaces away above it, and then 3 spaces away below it. So this is a way that you can check to see that it was reflected appropriately across that x-axis. But again, it's a lot easier to memorize the pattern. Then the last one was the rotation. For the rotations, you have to memorize the rules. It's just easier. So for a rotation of 180 degrees, and this doesn't matter if it's clockwise or counterclockwise, it's like a half a turn. So again, my originals are the same, -2, +3 for P, +1, +2 for Q, and then the R was 3, -1. Now, remember for the rotation, we're gonna keep it in the same order, but make the signs opposite. Then the new Q, -1, -2, and then the new R, -3, +1. And you're gonna see that this looks like it was turned 180 degrees. So let me go ahead and graph the originals again. So -2, +3, that's your P, +1, +2, Q, and then 1, 2, 3, -1 is the original R. Connect them. And now I'll do the rotated order pairs. So +2, -3, that's your new P. -1, -2 is your new Q. And then your new R, -3, +1 is up here. And you can connect. And it looks like it was rotated around. Now this also sort of looks like it was reflected across the origin, that order pair. But this is a rotation of 180 degrees. So again, you're gonna memorize the rules on that other slide to know what to do or how to manipulate the order pairs.